Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 8th Kern County Planning Commission meeting. We have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Commissioner Frank? Commissioner Judge?
Here.
Commissioner Louie?
Here.
Commissioner Sprague?
Here.
Ms. Obiot?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here. Thank you. Are there any commission member announcements or reports? Commissioner Judge.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement that on November 6th, on item number 8, per the applicant's request, I had a meeting regarding that one item.
Any other announcements or reports? I as well had a meeting with Mr. Yee, Jimmy Yee, as well as a representative from WISPA and Chevron. Seeing no other commission member announcements or reports, let's move on to approval of the minutes. You've previously received the minutes in your packet. Are there any corrections?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sprague, second by Commissioner Ashley. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to cases withdrawn or requests for continuance. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Members of the Commission. We have one item this evening on the D calendar. That is GPA 1, map 909. Our applicant is Juan Ponce, and the staff recommendation on that case is to refer that project back to staff.
Any action on D1?
Motion to refer back to staff as set forth.
Motion by Commissioner Sprague,
Second that motion.
second by Commissioner Judge. Please cast your votes.
Four ayes, one absent, motion carries.
Mr. Murphy, the consent agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are items scheduled before your commission, which are being recommended for approval by staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the commission or audience wishes to comment or ask any questions on the case. This evening, we have 6 cases on the consent, although I would request, we have an individual that would like to speak on case number 5, so I would like case number 5 pulled from the consent calendar, but then I will go over the remaining items on consent. The first case is case number 2. This is conditional use permit number 1, map 19619. Our applicant is Speedy Fuels, Inc. by WZI. This project is located approximately 500 feet east of Koch Street, approximately 500 feet south of Altuas Avenue in the Mojave area. The action before your commission tonight is a CUP to allow the construction of a liquefied petroleum gas bulk storage or distribution facility in excess of 2,000 gallon capacity in an M3 PD district. The staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The next case on consent is case number 3. This is zone change case number 42, map 164. Our applicant is James and Sheila Emery by Pinnacle Civil Engineering. This project is located at 23401 Massey Court in Tehachapi. The request before your commission is a change in zone classification from E1 to E1 RS, or a more restrictive district. I would note that your commission did receive late comment letters that we received after this hearing notice and staff report was already prepared. Those 2 comments are opposed to the project. The staff recommendation right now is to advise the Planning Commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve the zone change as requested and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. Staff did review these 2 comments, and it is our recommendation that this project continue to be recommended approval, and just briefly I'd like to show you the reasons why. This is an unusual lot. It's pretty large, as you can see on this aerial. All of the homes are surrounded closer to the main roadways. Ms. Montobias, if you could put up the zone map. The project applicant is requesting, well, this is the parcelization, so it's 1.52 acres in size. But if you notice at this zone map, all the property to the south is designated with the RS district. What that basically means is that the applicant is requesting this zoning so that they can have horses. In looking at all the property zoned RS to the south, in looking at the aerial in which there aren't any homes that are directly adjacent where the horses would be kept, staff appreciates the comments we received in opposition, but we do still think that this particular site, given the size of the lot, is still compatible to include this RS zone district, even though we have because we have all of the property that's zoned RS to the south. So again, staff wanted to bring to your attention the two comment letters in opposition, but based on our review, we are still recommending approval of this case, and we wanted to keep it on the consent calendar unless anybody from the audience wishes to discuss it further. Case number 4, on consent, this is conditional use permit number 17, map 4230. Our applicant is John McLeod by Scott Perlman. This project is located at 8899 Main Street in South Lake Isabella. This request is a conditional use permit to allow up to 2 cargo containers accessory to an existing mobile home in an E 1/4 MH district. The staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The next case on consent is case number 6. This is zone change case number 194, map 101. The applicant is Erie and Brian Morrow by LAV Pinnacle Consulting and Engineering. This project is located at the southeast corner of Hageman Road and Rudd Avenue in the western Rosedale area. The request is a change in zone classification from DI to E1/2 on approximately plus or minus 10,400 square feet, and then a zone change from E1/2 to DI on approximately 10,662 square feet or a more restrictive district. The basic purpose regarding this request is to just modify the existing drilling island boundaries to make it more compatible with the houses and the proposed lots. The staff recommendation is to advise this commission to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve the zone change as requested and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. And then the last case on consent would be case number 7. This is conditional use permit 73, map 124. Our applicant is Antonio Chavez by Wiley Hughes Surveying. I would note there is a typo in the location on your agenda this evening. This project is located on Southgate Drive, approximately 167 feet west of South P Street. The request before your commission is to allow an additional single-family dwelling unit in an R1 district. The staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. That completes the reading of the consent calendar tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to have one of the consent agenda items just read by Mr. Murphy pulled from the consent agenda and heard in its normal order? And that includes item number 3. Seeing none, would any commissioner like to do that?
Includes item number 3.
Yes, well, item number 3 is consent. Mr. Murphy had some additional comments, and I wanted to make sure no one from the audience wanted that pulled. Seeing none from the audience, any other commissioners? Any commissioners like anything pulled? Seeing none, any action on the consent agenda items 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7?
I would motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion by Commissioner Ashley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sprague. Please cast your votes.
4 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries.
Mr. Murphy, notice of right to appeal for those items which it applies to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Items 2, 4, and 7 this evening are final unless an appeal is filed. For projects where the commission's action is final, those actions are subject to appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the date of approval. An appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that are available at the Planning Department. This filing must be made within 14 days of and including this hearing.
Thank you. That leads us to item F, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Would anyone like to make a public presentation who's here in the audience? Seeing none, we will move on to public hearings, and we'll begin with item number 5.
All right, again, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So item number 5, this request is a conditional use permit that will allow the storage and sale of firewood in an A1 district. Our applicant is Charles Havenfelt. The project site is approximately 5 acres in size and is located at 100 J6 Place in the Bakersfield area. The property itself is designated RR, so rural residential, by the Western Rosedale Specific Plan, and it has a zone classification of A1, or limited agricultural. The property itself is currently developed with a 900 square foot single-family residence, and the remaining of the land is undeveloped. Again, the property is surrounded by agricultural lands and then some adjacent single-family residences located to the west. Again, the request before your commission this evening is a request for a CUP to allow the storage and sale of firewood on the project site. The end of page 1 and page 2 summarizes how the operation would partake. Basically, the applicant is requesting that the operation be allowed to operate between the months of September through June, with no operations occurring in the months of July or August. Basically, the applicant would receive wood from a firewood wholesaler. It would be delivered to his property. Once the wood is on his property, the applicant would then use a machine to chop it up into firewood, and then the applicant would then deliver any of the firewood that they have prepared to individuals who are interested in purchasing that from the applicant. The application is not requesting the ability for interested parties to come on site to purchase the firewood. All the delivery would be done from the applicant to the proposed purchasers. Staff did prepare a notification that we sent out to properties within 1,000 feet. We did receive a comment from Dogger indicating that they really had no comment other than the project site was in the boundaries of their oil field, and should anything be discovered that they would have to be contacted. We have a resident that lives next door that is here today. They have some concerns regarding the proposed project. In our review, if we can see on the aerial, staff looked at the proximity of the proposed business in relation to the adjacent homes. We believe that the property itself and this particular location was further enough away from any of the adjacent residences as that it wouldn't be very impactful to the proposed project site. It is designated and zoned A1, which is a limited agricultural district. Staff believes that the preparation of firewood was a use that qualified and is consistent with the A1 zone district, and therefore we believe that the proposed request was consistent with both the existing general plan and with the existing zone classification. I would note that we did have one additional condition we were proposing to include on the project this evening. Again, after the staff report was prepared, staff did receive a comment letter from the Public Works Department, and we are recommending the addition of condition 3B. The concern from Public Works was that they just wanted to make sure that a separate drive approach was constructed that would allow anybody, the applicant and or any of the trucks that are delivering the wood to the site, when it came off of the public road, that it wouldn't damage it. And so they are requesting that a asphalt, concrete, paved, private road approach be constructed off the public road onto the project site. Again, staff believes that is an appropriate recommendation and is recommending your commission add condition 3B as shown in the addendum staff report to the project. Therefore, we did have a revised recommendation. The staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended revised conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached revised draft resolution. That completes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Before I open the public hearing, are there any commissioner questions for staff?
None.
Seeing none, I'll open the public portion of this hearing. Is the applicant here tonight? Would the applicant like to make some brief opening comments? Sir, can you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Charles Onfeld, spelled last name Ahnfeldt.
Thank you.
Okay, my hours of operation are irregular and intermittent, and I'm not there a lot. In September, from September to February, I deliver the wood, I load it in the pickup. I don't have any operation. I'm not operating any equipment there. All I'm doing is loading the truck and taking it to my customers, and I'm approximately there maybe between once or twice a day, 2 to 4 hours. Some days I'm not even there. And then in February, from February to May, I cut the wood off site and it's brought to the yard, and I just unload the pickups and I have some people that cut some wood for me, and they bring it in the pickups, and they're there maybe once or twice a day for 30 minutes to unload it, and I'm there 30 minutes to unload what I cut, and then they bring in the wood that's already split. The only time that I'm operating any equipment there is the month of June. I split the wood that I bring in June, and I'm there approximately 8 hours a day with somebody helping me split the wood. And that's the only time I'm running any equipment there. It's a wood splitter. It's got a 11-horse engine on it. It's just like a gardener, just a gardener. And the nearest property, the RR 2.5 acres, 5 acres, the nearest property is 500 feet away. So I don't see how anybody can hear anything or anything. And then they have other homes that are even.
Mr. Anfeld, are you in agreement with staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for coming. I'm going to give you an opportunity to come back up and respond to any comments by people here tonight who are opposed.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed to this project? Sir, I see someone in the back. Can you please come forward? And if you would please state your name and spell your last name.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, members. Martin Downs, D-O-W-N-S.
Thank you.
I think what's missing here is the impact, the dust impact on the neighbors just to the north of this proposed site. And I disagree with the analysis of the, it says that this old agricultural land to the north, south, east, and west, undeveloped. If you look at the map, Tatia Place has many homes on it today. And it's right in this wood yard is going to be right in the backyard of that neighborhood. I object to the dust, to the noise. There's already enough of it. And this is a dirt lot. Any kind of vehicle travel is going to create dust. And I object to that completely. I'd also, he says that they're not going to use chainsaws. He says that that's an 11 horsepower gasoline engine. Well, I really don't want to hear that either. And the traffic impact of people going in and out of there. I don't know how that is going, if that's an additional issue for Stockdale Highway, or if that part of this is considered. It's already a bottleneck there at that intersection at Norden and Stockdale. So I would hope you would rethink this. I would hope that if they're going to do this, let's make it a paved lot without a dust impact for that neighborhood. And that end my comments. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this matter in opposition? Is there anyone in favor of this project other than the applicant? Seeing none, Mr. Murphy, would you like to respond to the comments by Mr. Downs, or would you like the applicant to respond first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a few that I can respond to first, and then
Thank you.
I'll leave it to your prerogative if you'd like anybody else to. Regarding the dust and those concerns, I would like to note that condition 4E, staff is proposing that any areas devoted to outside storage shall be treated with a dust binder or other dust measure as approved by the Director of the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. So staff did include a condition to help address any dust that would be associated where the piles and the wood would be stored, as that's when it would be moved, placed, and taken off and things along those lines. Additionally, the project applicant under condition 5A would have to comply with any requirements of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Regarding traffic, we did consult the Public Works Department. They reviewed this. They did not believe that traffic is an issue, specifically considering the number of trips would be very, very little. It's not a business where people are coming every day to purchase and truck off the wood. Only the people that are chopping it or working there would be the ones that would be traveling to and from the site. Regarding concerns as to noise or anything else from an environmental health perspective, we did consult with environmental health. They were completely comfortable at the project site and did not have any specific conditions that they thought were necessary. The only other condition that, in us reviewing this, that I would like to point out is that we consulted with the fire department, just in case they would have piles of wood and whether there would be any fire concerns. And the fire department indicated that before commencement of operations, they just want a chance to see exactly where the wood is being stored so that they can just touch base with the applicant ahead of time to make sure that all of their concerns are addressed, but they were not overly concerned as well. So I do appreciate all the comments from Mr. Downs, but again, as a fundamental, the property was zoned A1. Western Rosedale, you have a number of properties that are rural residential where you have a mix of homes along with other farming operations. As we can see by the aerial, the property is farmed immediately adjacent to the property, and there's a lot of impacts and noise that are associated just with the day-to-day operations of farming. Fundamentally, when staff evaluated this, we believe that this project just fit in with that type of operations, given that the property was zoned A1. So that would answer any of the questions or comments, unless your commission has any other for me.
Chairman Lowy, if I
Yes.
may. If Mr. Murphy has comprehensively covered that, however, if I may make a suggestion on, Mr. Murphy, which condition is the dust condition?
That is condition 4E.
I would recommend that we add to the end of that condition a statement that all operations must be maintained so that no dust leaves the property.
That sentence will be added to the end of 4E.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Director Oviatt? Mr. Murphy, anything else?
I do not have anything.
Thank you. Mr. Anfeld, would you like to make some closing remarks?
A lot of the dust occurs from the farmers on the east side there. The 40 acres on the east side there they're making dust there all the time. I'm not the one that's making all the dust. Like I said, I'm not there that much. But, you know, there's a lot of agriculture going on in that area, and there's tractors moving and stuff like that, and they create a lot of the dust. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Mr. Anfeld, do you have any objection to the added language to 4E?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of this hearing, return it to the dais for commissioner comments, questions.
Yes, I have a question here.
Commissioner Judge.
Mr. Murphy, in regards to the comment of, again, the dust and idea of the driving pavement area, on item number 4, you have item B. Can you clarify what area that driving pavement area is being designated on this site? Is it all the way to the back where this wood is being dropped off?
I can answer that.
Yes, please, if you have the answer, that'd be great.
Where they want me to put,
And we have Mr. Anfeld back at the speaker.
where they want me to put it's a 15 by 15 piece of cement or asphalt. It's not actually on the 5 acres in the yellow. It's on the other 5 acres on the bottom, right there where it comes. That's just right down there on the southeast side of the 5 acres that's below the one I'm on. Right there, yeah, yes, right there.
Okay, thanks for the clarification there. And that's going to be paved all the way up to the property?
No, no, they just want me to put a 15 by 15, either asphalt or cement right there at the entranceway.
It's just an apron.
Oh, okay, understandable.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anfeld. Commissioner Judge, any other questions, comments?
No, that clarifies my question, thank you.
Commissioner Sprague?
Unless you have other comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
No comment.
Any action on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve item number 5 as read into the record with the amendments that are attached to it.
Motion by Commissioner Sprague,
Second that?
second by Commissioner Judge. Please cast your vote.
4 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries.
Is there an appellate right?
Mr. Chairman, there is. Tonight's action would be considered final unless there is an appeal. And as again, as a reminder, for projects where that is the case, those actions can be appealed to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until the final date of appeal. An appeal can be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. Our building is 2700 M Street, Suite 100, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that are available at the Planning and Natural Resources Department. That filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of today's hearing.
Thank you, and that moves us to item number 8. Is that Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Chairman, that would actually be Ms. Oviatt.
Ms. Oviatt, Director Oviatt.
Mr. Chair, I am employed by the oil and gas industry, so I think it would be appropriate if I were to recuse myself for item number 8.
Thank you, Commissioner Ashley. Any other comments by commissioners? Seeing none, Director Oviatt.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm joined today, besides Mr. Hall from County Council, from our outside counsel, Jennifer Hernandez from Holland & Knight, who has been retained by the county on this particular item. As you know, this is consideration of the Supplemental Environmental Impact Report and review of approved amendments to Title 19 of the Kern County Zoning Ordinance focused on oil and gas local permitting, which were adopted by the Board of Supervisors November 9th, 2015. The area encompasses the unincorporated Kern County, 2.3 million acres, which is the valley portion of our county, which contains our oil reserves. These text amendments, which were adopted as Chapter 19.98 Oil and Gas Activities, as well as various minor amendments, created new permitting procedures for oil and gas exploration, extraction, operation, and production. And the new ministerial process has produced 5,083 permits, all issued within 7 days, and it requires compliance with adopted development standards for setbacks and other protective measures, including 88 mitigation measures that address mitigation for impacts to air, generation of greenhouse gases, biological and cultural resources, noise, land use, and aesthetics. As you know, after this ordinance was approved on November 9th, 2015, several parties filed lawsuits challenging the adequacy of the certified EIR. The cases were consolidated before Judge Eric Bradshaw of the Kern County Superior Court, and a copy of that actual judgment was included in the SEIR. On April 20th, 2018, the court issued a judgment that upheld the EIR in its entirety and the ordinance, except for 2 issues that require supplemental analysis under CEQA. Those 2 issues are, 1, impacts to rangeland and grazing land, and the second impact was road paving as a potential future means of mitigation to reduce designated air emissions. The judgment did not overturn any portion of the ordinance or the EIR. However, pursuant to that judgment, the court issued a writ of mandate. We have placed that language in the staff report, and what it required was, first, that within 45 days, we would transmit to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District copies of the court's ruling, the judgment, and the writ, which we did. And second, that we do a supplemental analysis to address these 2 issues. On completion of the supplemental analysis and reconsideration of the project, we would then take action. That this entire process, based on your recommendation, would go to the Board of Supervisors, would make a final decision. That then will be returned to the court and reviewed by the court. In contrast to agricultural resources, which you are used to seeing, such as prime farmland, Appendix G of the CEQA guidelines does not discuss or include a threshold for evaluating potential impacts to rangeland and grazing land. And since we don't have an adopted CEQA threshold for impacts, we did not specifically and separately evaluate the significance of potential impacts in the project EIR. So the purpose of this supplemental EIR is to address the deficient analysis found by the court of potential impacts to rangeland and grazing land, and address the second issue, which was the inclusion in the staff report of a reference that road paving could be used to offset the air emissions. We have provided an extensive staff report, which includes the project background and analysis of the sub-areas so that you can remember that we have tiers, and those tiers have been designed inside the zoning ordinance to address how drilling can commence. And so what I would like to do now is address these two issues to give you the overview of what the supplemental environmental impact report actually concluded. So first, I wanted to discuss road paving for air mitigation offsets. The mitigation that was adopted into our permitting structure requires that on every new well, they are required to pay a fee that then is under an air emission reduction agreement between the Board of Supervisors and the San Joaquin Air District. Your commission is familiar with this on other projects when it's called a VERA, a voluntary emission reduction agreement. That's been done on Tejon Mountain Village. It's been done on the Tejon Industrial Center. We've done them on large industrial projects that have come before your commission. In this case, it's different. The developer does not sign this agreement. The Board of Supervisors signed an agreement with the San Joaquin Air District. And on every permit, the County Planning Department collects an emission credit fee, which is based on how deep they drill. And there's actually online, which you can see, an adopted schedule that explains exactly how much money they pay. Then that money plus 4%, an additional 4%, which is for the San Joaquin Air District's administration, is transferred by my department to the Air District. They then have a grant program where in the 8 counties, which comprise our Air District, businesses and companies, nonprofits can come forward and get grants to take dirty, polluting things out of the environment so that there is no net impact from this new well. So for example, agricultural well that is run on diesel, they can get a grant and they can turn it over to electric. And that is one of the kind of low-hanging fruit ones. Others are nonprofits, can actually change out their entire fleet. Perhaps they have vans to transport their customers or other people. They could actually get a grant and change them to electric or LNG. So this emission reduction program leaves us with no net impact from these over 5,000 oil wells. The reference in the staff report that was found deficient suggested that an applicant could do road paving and not have to pay the fee. That was never analyzed, and it was never intended to be a mitigation measure. Therefore, we have declined to analyze it under CEQA in this SEIR. We are recommending in the resolution and to your commission that that not be allowed as an emission reduction credit until more analysis is done in another supplemental EIR. We have no applicants that have requested it. We have no applicants that have tried to do this, but if someone did want to, there would have to be additional CEQA analysis. We'd have to go through this process again before they could do that. And we will be then reporting that back to the court. So that is our recommendation on that first item. The second item is rangeland grazing. You have been provided the notice of preparation, the draft EIR, and the response to comments as normal process for a CEQA document. We have done an extensive analysis on rangeland and grazing land in Kern County. It does happen that a lot of the grazing land is oil and gas production lands. Mr. Murphy has put up for you, if you could pull it down just a little, because I don't think we care about the Colorado desert. So if you just pull it down, I think we'll be okay. And you can see the red, which is the grazing lands. We have, our baseline is 2012. That is the baseline that we used in analyzing in the original EIR. Remember, this is a supplemental. The 25 volumes that you see up here is the complete original oil and gas EIR. And then we have added 2 volumes for this supplemental EIR. So the whole thing together is one analysis. But the judge did not find any deficiencies in the rest of it, only this one issue that we're going to look at. So we've done an extensive analysis of rangeland, which we've analyzed in the staff report. And we also analyzed historically cattle and sheep inventory in Kern County. And the conclusion that we found after this extensive analysis is that while, yes, rangeland has decreased, the value of cattle and sheep has actually exponentially gone up. And it's actually, the inventory is more valuable than agriculture, than other kinds of agricultural use. That is a actual chart that we put in on page 10 of your staff report. We've also put some of the, page 14 of your staff report, which shows the constant dollars. So our analysis looked at if there's an impact on the loss of grazing land, that would be reflected in a loss of value in sheep and beef cattle. And we actually found exactly the opposite, which is, as you can see from this picture, cattle and sheep grazing, we actually put into the document a number of leases, is very compatible with oil production. In some cases, there's oil production that has then gone dormant and it's gone back to rangeland. So that's one benefit. The second benefit that we have analyzed and provided biological backup for is that in reality, grazing is an asset for taking invasive species out to allow the native grasses that we need to encourage and that do provide for the biological impacts to come back. So it's actually a benefit. And then in relation to that biological benefit, we have a mitigation measure, which is one of the 88 mitigation measures, 4.4-16, which for the first time requires that when they disturb land that's habitat, they have to actually mitigate for the replacement of that at 1-to-1. That benefit also benefits grazing. Now, we are supportive of grazing land in Kern County. We have hundreds of thousands of acres of Williamson Act on grazing land. However, as we noted at the beginning of this presentation, there is no requirement and no threshold for the loss of grazing land. So once again, we're using as a surrogate this threshold of, did it reduce the beef and sheep value and the amount of value? And in reality, it has exponentially grown since 1987, even though grazing land may have gone down. So staff has reviewed and considered the analysis in the SEIR. All comments submitted for the record, and in light of the whole of the record, determined that no changes to the zoning ordinance are needed. As noted, we did do a complete CEQA process. We provided you with those documents. We did include alternatives, and we have given you the analysis of our alternatives. We received 5 written comments on the draft SEIR. One was from one of the litigants who has pursued this litigation, and we provided you with all of our responses. In addition, we did receive a comment from Sequoia Riverlands Trust, who is one of our respected entities, nonprofit entities, that does agricultural land conservation. However, they did ask that we mitigate for the loss of grazing land 1-to-1. There is no requirement for this, and because grazing land actually is created from fallow agricultural land, it actually can regenerate as we have losses of water and other changes in the environment, as well as this issue of when oil and gas is dormant, then grazing land comes back. There is no requirement, legal requirement under CEQA to mitigate 1-to-1, and we have declined to impose that. We, in addition, have received a letter from a prominent rangeland expert who notes that that is not, that would not economically benefit them, since permanently conserving rangeland actually would diminish the ability to reuse it for a variety of other uses. We have provided you written findings and a brief explanation of the rationales for each finding in accordance with 15091 of the CEQA guidelines, and all the necessary findings are attached for your consideration. Therefore, the current protective development standards and the established tiers and biological mitigation measures that we discussed, and the development standards on the site plan review provide for grazing to continue and for the joint use of the oil fields for these activities. Therefore, staff is recommending that you recommend to the Board of Supervisors that you certify the Supplemental Environmental Impact Report, adopt Section 15091 findings, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached resolutions. That completes my presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you, Director Oviatt. Before I open the public portion of this hearing, are there any commission questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll open the public portion of this hearing. Would anyone from the applicant like to make a presentation?
Norman Carlin, C-A-R-L-I-N. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm an attorney at the Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman Law Firm, and I'm here representing my client, the Western States Petroleum Association. WISPA is a nonprofit trade association representing companies that explore for, produce, refine, transport, and market petroleum, petroleum products, natural gas, and other energy supplies in California and for Western states. WISPA, as you know, was one of the applicants, together with California Independent Petroleum Association and the Independent Oil Producers Agency, for the zoning ordinance revisions and EIR that established the streamlined and environmentally protective oil and gas permitting program that was adopted by the county in 2015. WISPA and its co-applicants strongly supported the ordinance and the many new requirements and mitigation measures contained in the ordinance and the EIR in order to obtain the economic certainty of a more streamlined permitting process. After 3 years of highly successful implementation of that program, staff has now prepared this supplemental EIR to the 2015 EIR. The SEIR, as you've heard, is necessary to comply with the Superior Court's decision requiring supplemental analysis of potential impacts on rangeland from oil and gas activities. WISPA members strive to operate in harmony with their communities and their neighbors, including livestock ranchers. Cattle and sheep grazing have coexisted in close proximity with oil and gas in Kern County for more than 100 years. The WISPA members value the opportunity to lease their lands for grazing. This is an important part of land management strategies for the companies to control non-native vegetation, reduce fire risk, and also, as you heard, preserve habitat. We agree with the SEIR's conclusions that oil and gas activities do not have a significant impact on rangeland, and no new mitigation measures are required. Also, with regard to road paving, we support and agree with the SEIR's discussion of road paving as a mitigation measure for reducing air emissions. Road paving can only be approved as an emission reduction measure after additional environmental review in compliance with the court's finding. No applicant is currently interested in doing so, and therefore it is appropriate that the SEIR has not incorporated this at this time. WISPA respectfully requests that the Planning Commissioners recommend certification of the SEIR to the Board of Supervisors, and I just want to say we continue to greatly appreciate the county's support for the oil and gas permitting program and look forward to its continued success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carlin. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Seeing none, would anyone like to speak in support, other than the applicant? Sir, please approach the microphone and state your name for the record.
My name is Carl Twisselman, Twisselman, 9501 Low Kern Road, McKittrick, California, 93251. I previously sent my own personal comments to you in a letter. Tonight I'm speaking for the Kern County Cattlemen's Association. We have 120 members who either are livestock grazers or support the industry here in Kern County. We support your staff recommendation that you ask the Board of Supervisors to approve, whatever all your language was there, certify it. We feel, many of us, including myself, have dealt with the oil companies for a long, long time. We've grazed cattle right alongside the wells. I would say that the oil companies have not only not had a negative effect on the amount of grazing land available, it's been a positive effect. I lease many thousands of acres from major oil companies. We've done it for a long, long time. We graze the cattle with them. We've never had a problem. So again, I ask you to support the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Twisselman. Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi, Crowded Richard, sorry. My name is Gabriela Gonzalez, last name Gonzales. And I'm here on behalf of Kern Citizens for Energy. Kern Citizens was founded to support local energy production and all the men and women working in the industry. Kern Citizens for Energy represents more than 10,000 individuals in Kern County, as well as 5 incorporated cities, 10 chambers of commerce, hundreds of small businesses, and representatives from our healthcare, education, nonprofit, and public safety organizations throughout Kern County. Kern Citizens for Energy supports a draft supplemental environmental impact report for the Kern County Oil and Gas Ordinance. As the SCIR correctly explains, the longstanding coexistence and rangeland grazing with oil and gas development in Kern County is mutually beneficial. It's important to understand that cattle and sheep grazing have historically occurred within oil-producing areas in Kern County. Both are vital contributors to the economic health of the county. Putting new burdens on grazing on or near oil and gas lands or on oil and gas development on near or grazing lands would undercut their mutually beneficial relationships and reduce the availability of productive land for both activities. The oil and gas industry in Kern County is responsible for 40,000 local jobs and $300 million in annual Kern County property taxes. Our community is healthier, happier, and safer when we have access to abundant local energy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
Good evening, Chairman Louie and fellow commissioners. My name is Richard Chapman. I'm the president and CEO of the Kern Economic Development Corporation, and our organization's mission is to stimulate a diversified economy, that economic base, which includes energy and natural resources and agriculture. Our litmus test to support projects are related to capital investment, wage income, and public revenue. And we support the draft supplemental EIR as we strongly supported the 2015 EIR. And we believe that this creates economic sustainability, a certain amount of clarity, reliability that is so important for our industries, and that drives future investment opportunities. In fact, we know that we're the #2 oil producing county in the country, and actually $1 million of output in oil produces 5.8 jobs. So it's extremely important that we follow this very bold and balanced approach that supports our major industries. So again, thank you for your consideration of this highly important matter.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of this hearing, return it to the dais for commissioner comments and potential action. Commissioner Judge.
By any of the commissioners, I'd like to make a motion to certify the supplemental environmental impact report, adopt section 15091 findings, and adopt section finding as set forth in this draft resolution.
Second.
Director Oviatt, was that the right language for the motion?
Just have to add the words recommend to the Board of Supervisors.
And recommend that to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Judge, a second by Commissioner Sprague. Please cast your votes.
Three ayes, 1 absent, 1 abstained. Motion carries.
Okay, and that moves us to item number 9 on the miscellaneous calendar, and Commissioner Ashley's back. And this item is to appoint a nominating committee for next year's Planning Commission Chairman and Vice Chairman. I would recommend and suggest that we appoint Commissioners Sprague and Commissioner Poole to serve as our nominating committee. Is there any action on that recommendation?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Sprague, second by Commissioner Ashley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And when do we return with that recommendation? Is it next meeting?
I would say next meeting.
Is it? Okay, I'm hearing December 13th. So we'll return on December 13th with that recommendation. And with nothing further, that leads us to adjournment. Our next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for December 13th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in this board chambers. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion? Is there a motion and second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you.